Okay, so let me formally start and say good afternoon, everyone, and welcome Jill for accepting my invitation for being a guest at the Germinator. I like to start by just quickly recapping and telling people if this is their first time at the Germinator, a bit of what it is. And so my name is Alon Eisenstein. I'm an assistant professor of teaching at the School of Engineering at UBC Okanagan in the city of Kelowna. And I've been running this for the last couple of years, a bi-weekly guest speaker series called the Germinator. And the idea of the Germinator is create space for people to talk about this idea of innovation and entrepreneurship and commercialization, the things that we don't think about when we start thinking of tech and solutions and even entrepreneurship. People are thinking too much about the solution and not about the process to get there. So the idea is to hear people's stories and really see what people did in their lives and how they made a decision to do what they do. I'm going to quickly give a quick introduction about Jill. And Jill is one of the few guests that have the privilege of having a system lens view, being in her position. So I'm hoping to get some insight about not just her individual story, but about many other stories that she's seen over the years in the ecosystem of innovation. Before moving to Jill, I do want to recognize the fact that today is Transgender Day of Remembrance. And this is, of course, a day to remember all the transgender people who have lost their lives in the battle for a respect and living in society with the same rights as everybody else. And being on the Okanagan Nation Alliance territory in the Okanagan Valley in the city of Kelowna, I'm really taken to heart the fact that as of this past September, I guess this has been a September of 2024, we now have the first Two-Spirit powwow offered in Vernon, and I'm hoping that this is a sign of better times where our Indigenous communities who have long had Two-Spirit as a place of reverence in community for their ability to live and see the world through the male and the female perspective to guide us in having a better society for everybody. Okay, now Jill. So Jill Ingvarsson is the Industrial Technology Advisor at NRC IRAP, and I'm going to let her spell out the acronyms instead of me butchering it. I will also just quickly, capture a few things from the bio that was shared before on the website. She's a Waterloo alumni with electrical engineering. She worked in software industry, working on really cool projects that we may or may not touch on today with Marvel, Star Wars, Trilogy, Endgame, and end up working with a technical program manager for Autodesk. So I'm assuming that was working for Autodesk directly. That's right. And beyond that, I guess, and this is the past life. The current life is working with NRC IRAP as the Industrial Technology Advisor in our region, right?
That's right. I'm in Kelowna.
In Kelowna, in the interior. And she works to accelerate the growth of small and medium-sized businesses and providing funding and innovation advisory services. So Jill, welcome to the Germinator, and thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Would you like to start by spelling out the acronym NRC IRAP for those who are not familiar?
Okay, so sure. NRC is the National Research Council of Canada, and IRAP is the Industrial Assistance Program. Industrial Research Assistance Program. So, and as a ITA, the job is to meet with small firms, small and medium-sized companies that are under 500 staff, and to see how to help them either with advisories, and then sometimes as they grow, with acceleration for funding opportunities to grow the Canadian ecosystem. So, hiring new staff, growing and accelerating their business. So the idea is to really try to, I went to Waterloo and most of my class went to the US. And so the idea is to try to, grow from roots here, the ecosystem in Canada, and encourage research and development tasks within companies.
Okay, excellent. And you've had lots of experience in research and development yourself.
That's right. So, I went to Waterloo Electrical Engineering. I worked in the research group at Microsoft for a number of years. I worked on the natural language group and worked what was very early on the LLMs. And then I really got into graphics, just kind of, that bug kind of clicked with me on the visual problem solving side as well as the programming side. And so I went to Montreal where in 2000, there were, there was a lot of growth in graphics, and we were actually the Canadian leader at that time. And so I went there and worked for a number of companies, including Softimage, which was acquired by Autodesk, building software solutions that then were used for the creative industry for, creating characters, animation, simulating. And are used in all of the movies, the big movies. So whether that's either for visual effects or, for animated films. And then it was also used for games. Almost all of them are used our packages. I also worked on a product called AI Implant that actually was, pathfinding and game trigger logic. So I managed a team there that and worked with Midway Games and EA and BioWare to actually, enhance and advance their AI as it was integrated into Unreal. So, and then, I worked for Autodesk on, a lot of file transfer protocols that were used. Most large studios, whether games or films, actually kind of create a system where they actually use different file management pathways to actually merge and unmerge files, because the assets are so large that they can't load them all at once. So then they have to have a system in order to be able to kind of amalgamate scenes together. So I worked a lot on that. And then I worked for Activision in the research team again, working on facial animation tools, so that to automate the characters' faces when in various action sequences. And then I worked for Deluxe on a large platform that was based on the productivity across 18 different studios worldwide, so that then they could ingest films, work on the visual effects, work with thousands and thousands of staff, and have it distributed globally across all these studios, optimized in terms of file transfer size, in terms of project management, as well as making tools to make the artists more efficient and performant across the system, so that it live could track the whole film in real time.
So I'm hearing you use a word very often, and I guess because of your background, it makes sense, which is the word tools, developing tools for this or that. And
right.
and I'm curious because of, again, where you are right now in NRC IRAP, and you have the word innovation in your title. How do you understand innovation? And kind of the context for my question is kind of simple. You worked on certain tools that were developed, and some of them were internal tools, and nobody has ever seen or heard of them because it were internally developed and used for different companies. other tools that we see somewhere explode and everybody's using them. So how do you understand, or what is an innovation in your case? And how do you explain it to others? What does innovation look like?
That's a great question. I mean, there's I don't see innovation as like kind of a bucket of, a definition, right? I see it as like a full range of problem solving and solution solving. So, I mean, innovation can be like, when I worked on hair for the first time, that was used in the Pixar movies for Monsters Inc. Like, it can be taking something where Disney used to have the triangles, and then actually kind of advancing the visual aspects, so to have actually individual strands to be used for simulating hair. So that could be either a visual piece, creating a new auto summary feature in Word that where one didn't exist. That can be it's adding a unique aspect to a tool set. That can be one sort of sense of innovation, but innovation can also be, optimization procedures, right? I mean, you see that all the time right now with AI, but certainly, optimizing, even finding unique ways to optimize file transfers, so that instead of people having to wait 2 days to get a file, that it can be an hour. That is an efficiency and optimization that where there wasn't a solve before, all of a sudden either workflows or creative options or opportunities to advance solutions can be innovative. Typically in IRAP, innovation is in the software zone is seen as coding and adding a piece of code to then advance a tool or solution set, or even a teaching piece, right? But innovation for sure can have so many approaches, and actually, for sure, problem solvers, as they're looking at creating a solve for a business solution, certainly like looking at many different approaches has always been something that's worked for me. And looking at a whole spectrum of options before diving in and digging down into one is really a valuable perspective, and and is likely to actually help them succeed in the end by taking that time at the beginning. So.
Okay, so lesson number one, don't rush innovation.
Well, I would say look at the breadth of options before diving in on the depth. And sometimes you have to try a few things out to be able to even get to that breadth. But if you dive in and dig in with one solve, it without actually looking at a wider range of options, quite often you kind of get pigeonholed, and then you have to and then it's a higher cost to actually go to the next step and the next step. So I would say that a wider approach to looking at a problem needs to be part of the process.
Okay. So I have a follow-up question, and then I'll see if anybody in the audience has any question they want to ask. So as you know, I teach entrepreneurship at the school, and I guess my two go-to frameworks are lean startups and disciplined entrepreneurship. And in both cases, again, there's a process to the exploration. At the same time, there's a mantra of just try things out, like throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And so since you could also call that a process. I mean, there is a process in throwing spaghetti at the wall. Other than your suggestion to explore the breadth of options before doubling down on any particular one. what have you seen in your place of working in innovation that seems to work to lead to better outcomes in the process?
I would say making sure that you break down any silos. So if you, whether that's either within your own team or your own thinking, or even in software itself, that quite often, kind of anyway, in my experience, silos, kind of I either whether it's in a code base or whether it's in team communication or whether anything, it can be a very restrictive uh, philosophy, I suppose, and that you can actually gain a lot of efficiency by actually kind of connecting the information sets and being able to yeah, either collaboration or connection, or anyway, that would be another in terms of performance, or yeah, that would be.
So is it as simple as just creating a team of bringing people from different departments, different companies together, or is there more to it?
It can be. I mean, for sure, as an engineer, making tools for artists and not actually using those tools myself, um, without making a partnership with a team of artists, it's the blind leading the, you don't know, you don't understand the workflow that they need well enough, even if you think you understand it because you've watched them, you've studied them, you think but actually understanding their thinking process, which is very different. Yeah, crossing skill sets within a team for sure is one aspect of it. The other thing is, I would say, just performance wise, just even data sets themselves, right? Like, there can be a lot of optimization gains by actually, um, cross-secting data sets so that they can actually access the information. That would be another way I would say. And I would also say that, I think that, and I know that you have your models, I think that in some of the industries I've worked at, there can be a lot of uncertainty in change management as part of those processes. And by kind of mapping things out and then having expectations of how things will go in a linear manner can actually restrict the opportunities that you can face. And being open to uncertainty and being open to, okay, I don't know how this aspect is going to work, asking questions, working with other pieces of teams, and then being open to change management is a very valuable skill in the short term and the long term, I think, overall.
Very cool. Thank you. Does anybody in the audience have any question for Jill about innovation and processes? I think Omid, I thought I saw your hand go up there.
Yep, I've got one question, which might not be super related to innovation, but based on the background you described for us, Jill, first of all, thank you for this. I am thinking, so you've worked in a couple of industrial companies like Activision, you named, right, the Marvel, and like Autodesk, and to me, I think you've had probably two main themes to your activities. That's what I picked up, and that was probably one of them was like graphical design, right? And the second one is about like coding and like optimization, like um, um, game theory strategies, or this is how I got it. But so putting this all together, while you were transitioning from one role to another role in your experience, were you self-aware of the passions you were pursuing, or were you like combining those passions with your skill set and then deciding, okay, so I did this work with Autodesk. Now I'm going to like, go explore some different problem and help them solve that in a different company. Or like, I'm just curious about like,
Yeah.
what was.
So thank you so much for the question. I would definitely say it was an organic process. However, when I worked at Microsoft, their roles and whether program management or development were very rigid, right? You had a specific role in a team, and these were the activities that you did. And that was it. A lot of the other companies that I worked at Softimage, they didn't have project managers. So then when you worked on a project or led a piece, you would be the project manager plus the developer and the tester. So then you could actually, and then I also led a SWAT team, which actually was working with studios directly to debug positions. So there was less less need for like a rigid definition of what you were doing and then where you were going with the problem. So typically I would start off with like kind of a vision of what was needed, right? Like, okay, there's a pipeline for automation and it's got a number of problems. We're going to optimize this because this is like our lighthouse account at the time, right? So and then you kind of have to dive into, okay, what are they struggling with? Is it there's a performance problem that Cheetah's not running fast enough in this screen and it's causing bottlenecks in their studios? How can we optimize the Cheetah? Okay, digging in then and seeing okay, well the IK algorithm is taking too much time, and then you dive in, right? So I think I think through the roles that I've had, I've been lucky because there was flexibility for the types of problem solving, and then there was a need for coding, there was a need for optimization, but there also was a need for like high level approaches, because when you have a visual piece of software, there really isn't, and you're making tools for artists, there isn't really like a definition that it has to be this one checkbox or this one, set of icons that are used. You can define what the icons are, and you can define how the file path management works. So all these things, if you kind of, and then whether you're defining file path naming management, or whether you're using icons as a solution for the return on investment of how much are you going to optimize the studio, all these things are I think it's like you can look at different pros and cons of the different options. Sometimes there's always the need to look at how fast is it going to take to code, what are the technical trade-offs, how much how much technical debt is going to be left with the different solves, and how much is it actually hurting the studio in terms of revenue. So you have to kind of make different judgment calls, and as I started, I suppose I would be kind of defined a small project, and then as I grew into different leadership roles or management and director roles, the problems were relatively the same, but I just had a wider range of options to be able to problem solve with. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay.
Border.
Hi, Jill. Yes, thanks for all the insights you've shared. So from what I understand, you're currently at the Industrial Research Assistance Program, and my interests lie more in regional economic development, thinking about what attracts and supports small, medium enterprises, what are their needs, and do they need to interact much with municipalities and policy structures, and what are kind of their barriers to growth? So I'd be just interested to hear your view on what creates a dynamic and growing environment for SMEs, and what are some of the key barriers that they're facing in your experience?
So I would say generally, there are other organizations that are in charge of the economic development, like the NCBC, and there's a few other municipalities and pieces that are with that. So we do meet with them and see what kind of challenges they're facing as well. And we look as a economic development group, I suppose. We discuss the meetings. At IRAP, I would say one of the things that I've noticed in the region is that there's a lot of non-technical founders that then do not have as many, they don't have as many technical partners at the high level. And so what it means is that they're kind of focused on problem solving for their specific innovation. And quite often they can go fairly far with, some tools that are that are not as deep as they would need for the longer term. But often the firms can get themselves into trouble by, having contracting companies exclusively develop their code, or having or making longer term decisions without actually having the technical impact or understanding the technical depth of impact for those pieces. So I see a lot of firms, contract developers overseas, and then realize that they have no idea about the the code base that they've developed. They're lost with what are the security impacts of where are our holes? What do we need? Where do we need to go next? Why are our servers going down? 10% of the time, what's happening there? I think that there's a lot of reactionary aspects, and because they don't understand the full code base that they've developed, then they're bringing more risks to their projects. And so I've seen that quite regularly here. So typically I try to encourage firms to actually bring on either a high-level fractional CTO or a CTO. I also try to support them as they convert overseas contractors to staff here, software staff here in Canada, as well as trying to identify any sort of code-based risks. Like, do you have a copy of your code? How you're managing the code set? What are the process? So I would say that those are a few of the many tips and tricks that I try to coach firms that have less technical staff in them, in terms of their short and their long-term ability to manage their code.
Amazing. And then if I may ask a follow-up, given this lack of local CTOs, etc., is that because our universities are not producing enough? Is it because our graduates are leaving? Do you think the local economy can just not pay the necessary salaries? Do you have any insights on why this mismatch is happening?
I'm not. I think that it's a multifaceted problem. I think that some of the founders are confident that they don't need one, and so then part of it is like a knowledge gap of like, no, these are the risks that you're then embarking on. Some of it is that it is harder to find the right fit of a CTO here. I mean, certainly I know that Accelerate Okanagan has started to have like kind of like coffee sessions for non-technical firms and technical staff, so that they can kind of socialize, meet and greet. Those are things that that kind of help merge the interest, as well as just kind of socializing who they could potentially work with. I think also that it depends on the firm's stage too. There is kind of a natural, initially there's a sort of a natural resistance to invest highly in technical staff if they feel that their product could be less technical. And then I think as they grow and develop, they do understand that, oh, wait, like, you know, if I'm building something that's, you know, 100% dependent on the software solution that I have, and I have nobody that understands the software solution, then but you know, there does seems to be a natural evolution there as they grow towards looking for that solve.
So I'm curious, having seen numerous companies at different stages, and I'm pretty sure you've seen things that went bust.
Yes.
Is there any particular example that you felt like this is such a great idea and it fell flat? Like, do you have any of those magical?
Well, I can't really share with you any specifics of other people's firms, but well, I mean, I could share my own project, but I can't really share other, like, we're not allowed, we don't speak about other firms specifics. Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe something you came across, maybe not in your portfolio, but being in the right ecosystem. Any fun stories that you came across that felt worthy of sharing?
Okay, I can't really comment, but I'll share with you what a project that I worked on that did fall flat. So I did make an app for kids with ADHD, and it was kind of a gamification piece that was, I guess it was 5 years ago now that I made that, and certainly it was helpful, but I think that, you know, the making sure that parents understood the value add was a challenge. So anyway, I don't think that,
but not the users or paying users.
not the paying users. That's right. So I actually ended up giving it away to families that I knew struggled, and it helped a few, but it was not, you know, I didn't take it to the next level where I've seen many other firms actually excel at that level. So, and work with the marketing and the growth and the value add story, which it can, without that, firms are very much limited in their growth. So I think that there's a number of programs that are designed to try to help firms formulate those value add pieces, make sure that they've refined them well enough, and then they sell their story properly with those pieces and refine their product lines with it. You know, there's some in Vancouver, there's some at AO, there's, you know, obviously 3-year programs. I think that when I was starting my project, I did actually not know about all these resources. So just getting out there, understanding the options, and actually engaging and trying different approaches, and that includes taking good advice from firms, from organizations that understand the value add pitches, and making sure that your product and your solution is targeted towards the market.
So maybe kind of circling this back to what you just said about knowing where to get good advice. So, you know, I'm just a prof teaching entrepreneurship. We have Accelerator Okanagan. We have you at IRAP. There's, of course, venture capitalists and different individuals in different capacities. It can really get dizzying how many potential options you can get advice from. And so maybe kind of to help people understand how, like, why should people come to you and IRAP? Like, what type of advice, what type of problems you are best suited at solving, or giving advice on in that field?
So I would say that starting with the Accelerate Okanagan is the best approach, because they have a number of early stage startup programs and offerings to be able to support the firms. IRAP is really kind of aimed at the kind of like second stage, like after a firm has an MVP, you know, they have some revenue from the product, they have product market fit. And they have created something innovative. At that point, then IRAP tries to jump in and help them take it to the next level. So we have advisory services, you know, all across Canada. You know, we have groups of expertise that we can loop firms in. But yes, it would be dizzying at the very early stage, right? And that there are options for funding and growth at that time. So I would suggest at the early stage, starting, you know, by creating the vision, you know, and looking into the product market fit and your solution, your product line, both with the founders as well as connecting in with the Accelerate Okanagan community.
Okay, so I think again, kind of simplifying that, I guess what I heard as a good indicator is you need to have paying customers at least before you knock at your door.
That's right. I mean, I do meet with firms that do not have paying customers yet, and I do discuss them. But that is typically where IRAP kind of fits in within the ecosystem. So, and then I often send those firms to Accelerate Okanagan and to those programs to leverage. And we actually provide funding to many of the Accelerate Okanagan programs to help firms, advance their skills in these areas. So.
Okay, so kind of if I can fine tune the answer, so paying customers is I guess kind of I'm guessing here is plural, so more than one. So
yes.
And
well, it depends on your product line. I mean, you can have a contract,
true.
Yeah, a large contract, yeah.
So kind of reframing it in my head. So when I talk to students and budding entrepreneurs, I you know, a business plan is nice when you put in, and we have, you know, 1,000 users, paying customers per month, and this is a recurring model for, you know, revenues and expenses. And I usually say, great, now go get your first one, because you can't get to number 1,000 before you have number one. But there's a big stretch between 1 and 1,000 recurring customers. And you did mention that you're here to support the boost, like the growth.
Acceleration, yeah.
Acceleration. So is there like I don't want to call it a sweet spot, and I know it's industry specific and product specific. If you're selling a $750,000 product, you're probably happy to have one customer per year. And if you're selling a $1 app, you probably need more than one a year. But is there like a framework for people to get a sense of, you know, how do I know that, you know, it's not going to waste my time to talk to IRAP because it's not too early, but then I haven't waited too long. Is there like a internal checking point that people can check in to say, yes, this is where I could use help to scale up or grow faster?
It's not intended to be a specific checklist. I mean, I think that it depends on the founders, them as people, their experience, their skills, certainly their product itself. So sorry.
But I didn't mean checklist per se, but more indicators. Like, what are indicators?
Well, for sure, having an MVP or something in a product that's out there in the marketplace and generating revenue and generating enough revenue that they're looking to hire new staff is really that are not the founders, right? So they're going to be hiring, you know, other, you know, beyond the founding team. So that's kind of one of the big indicators. And the other one is that the product is innovative, right? It's not like there's 50 of them in the ecosystem or in BC, you know, right now, like they have done their competitive analysis. They do have a story of where they fit in. They have looked at partnership opportunities and, you know, found ways to partner, ways to sell, and ways to you know, creative ways to make money, so, or to add value to their product. So and then the third one is really yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, what are they looking to do for the next phase, right? Are they looking to just keep, you know, bootstrapping and just have a team of 2, or are they looking to grow and accelerate their business growth? So when they're ready to take that leap for growth, that's when IRAP that's the sweet spot IRAP's looking for.
Okay.
But it's not always black and white. So
Yeah. But what I'm hearing, it's a question of capacity. Like, am I doing everything I can, and it's still, I can't do enough because I don't have enough hours of the day to do it myself, and I'm past my capacity. I need someone else to help me increase the capacity. But
well,
there's
and they have to have the
why.
money to be able to do that, right? So they have to have and then so then that is typically revenue. I mean, there are other forms of investment, but typically IRAP likes to see that there's been traction in the market as well. So
Right.
and then because IRAP likes to see that when they accelerate and help help new firms onboard staff, or, you know, move overseas contractors to Canadian, they like to see that they stay. So the idea is that the firm has a product, and it, you know, has proven that their, you know, kind of their grit and their determination and their insight for the product is there. And then it's kind of, okay, well then, and then they're looking to commit to the next level to grow their firm. And that's when IRAP likes to jump in and help that acceleration.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question on the tip of my tongue, but I'm gonna ask if anybody has any other questions they want to ask first, because I feel like I'm going in a very particular direction with my thoughts. Does anybody else here wants to jump in with anything on this idea of growth and capacity? Okay, I guess not. Okay, so I guess my naively follow-up question is, why not Dragon's Den? Like, why should I go to IRAP, or how is IRAP different than going on TV for Dragon's Den and getting an investor?
Okay, well, so IRAP doesn't, they don't take a cut of the company, so it's a claim-based reimbursement piece. So it's you know, they'll still own the firm at the end of it. I think that IRAP is less, you know, it's meant to be a longer term partnership with the ITA, right? So it's not, you know, you fill out one form, you do one presentation, you pass or you fail, you're on to the next round, right? There's more of a process of coaching and helping and, you know, and working together to be able to be able to take things to the next step of growth. So it's you know, whereas Dragon's Den, you're there, you've got a pitch, there's 10 other companies, and you know, you've got 5 minutes to prove you're worth them. I mean, IRAP does a lot of work through email. You know, we do, you know, sending feedback back and forth in terms of you know, either their presentation or their application or different pieces. So, and then it's meant to, yeah, it's not meant to just yes or no in that one day or that one forum. It's meant to continue through a number of years to actually help the firm, understand areas of growth that would be worthy, or help them, adjust their plans.
So now I'm curious. I'm gonna do a pivot in
Okay.
my line of question or conversation. And it really occurred to me just now that hearing you talk about your personal experience with the software companies you work with previously, I'm really getting a sense that you're a problem solver. Give me a problem, I want to solve it. And it was mostly in the software space. And now I believe your still specialty is in the software space with
That's right.
IRAP, yeah. But the problem you're solving for companies is not really their software problems, but it's more of their company growth problem in that respect.
It's the company growth, and to your other colleague's point, it's also look with an eye towards the community growth, right? So then what would help the community as well in the longer term? So, if there's certain gaps here, encouraging firms to bring in, new AI staffing resources or this or that, or coaching, or sending programs to go to Emmy, or sending, helping the community actually embrace new waves of technology or challenges with either, new growth of new staff, connections to others, or so that would be the kinds of problems as a holistic sense that I'm looking to try to help make traction with, and whether that's either creating new programs in IRAP itself, or sponsoring specific companies with or funding specific companies for specific periods, or providing them connections to other programs so that they can learn and grow as well. So for sure, there's an individual aspect to each of the firms, and then a community and holistic piece.
So now my question is,
Okay.
being a problem solver and coming from software and graphic design to your current role, where do you see similarities in how you approach the problem solving practice, and what are things that you learned that are different in what you're doing now as compared to all the years you've done software problem solving?
Well, I mean, to be frank, I think a lot of the methodologies that I do are still the same. I mean, I think that one of the things, I was working with a number of folks on a speaker series across Canada to try to help with AI and in the games and media space. And part of that was just going and talking to, different firms that were struggling in this space, or that were or were not adopting AI, and what were the, in finding that there were clusters across Canada of information where they were not necessarily connecting or sharing information. So then are finding these gaps, right? And so I think that in my work, when I was leading the software piece of Deluxe too, or for the movie piece, it was really the same, right? You kind of holistically look across the whole piece, find out where the pockets of return on invest ROI growth could be, and in Canada too, right? It's where are they struggling holistically? What are the clusters? What are the pockets? How can then those be filled, right? So then, is it by sharing information? Is it by having advisory services? Is it by supporting specific kinds of firms with funding? And so then it's kind of, looking at those gaps, and then comparing that to other countries in the world, and seeing, how can we stay competitive, or advance our competitive.
So software and people are the same. We solve problems similarly. Well,
Well, maybe I,
methodologically speaking.
well, maybe I have a simplistic view of it, but when things are struggling, when either a firm's struggling or and wanting to go to the next level, or pushing to go to the next level and having a hard time getting there to where they want to be, I guess it is sort of like trying to figure out what is that gap, and then trying to find solutions to fill that gap. Is it calling up a number of colleagues and trying to help with some education? Is it some programs that can help fill those gaps? And so the idea is to work with firms, find out what they need support with, and each firm has a different aspect that they're struggling with, and then provides solutions as me as a problem solver, solution solver, and then and then hope that then they take those seeds and then grow, right? And they obviously often they're in the fire already, and they have this seed, and it's kind of like, okay, here, if you kind of and then give them programs to try to help them to the next level.
We're getting close to 2 p.m. So I'm just gonna pause here and give anybody a last chance of asking any burning questions, if they have any.
So kind of to, go back to my earlier question, and with what Alon mentioned, that problem solving is probably one of the key aspects of your career. When did you, come to that self-realization of you being able to, looking at the breadth of the things and, helping to solve things in a high level? Like I think you graduated from Waterloo with an electrical degree, then going into software, but I'm just trying to kind of know, like, when did that vision came to you that you can actually, work at very higher levels?
Okay, well, I'll be honest, I'm not the best self-realizer out there. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't like, oh, I'm good at this and this is what I do, and I realized it and then I moved my career that way. I think it was more that it was just sort of naturally came to me, and then I just kept kind of being drawn to those kinds of problems and then solving those problems. And then I got more and more confident in myself and my ability to deliver the solutions and to figure them out. So which then meant that I could take on a larger set of problems and then be able to confidently make a plan and then deliver on the plan. So and then as I grew in those steps, but I have to admit, I don't have, I'm not, I know I can do this, it was like a confidence, but then it was almost just like, I had to do this, it was because it was one of those things where, I think to Elon, when we talked before, it was sort of like, sometimes, as an engineer, I didn't feel like I fit in and I just wanted to go take on these problems. So I took on interesting problems and then just made it happen because I just had to. And I was just like, I had that determination and I wanted to do it and that drive. And so then I would just make it happen. And then from there, I could take on more. And occasionally I'd fall and not, you make mistakes and you learn and you pivot. But quite often, most of the time I was able to deliver it and then kind of grow with harder and harder problems. So I would say I'm not very self-realizing, but I just did it anyway.
That's fair.
For what it's worth, I think most people aren't, and it's only when you're, sitting down to write your memoirs or having this is your life. What do you call it? The television show, and when you look at the life of, you have all these realizations in hindsight. it is coming close to 2 p.m. and I think, you know, my biggest takeaway, and again, I'm super appreciated that you took the time to have this conversation is, and I appreciate the fact that you didn't let your engineering degree limit your passion for trying to try new problems to solve in different ways. And I think, and again, this is something that I keep telling my students all the time is don't limit your options just because you have a title or you're in a program that's called a name. And just follow the passion and let your skill set make the best use of it. So and I think your personal career and approach to it is a great exemplification of that narrative. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody who joined us for this session. And just to give a heads up, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have the last guest for 2024, which will be Ray Muzica.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you guys already connected, right? Because
Yes,
I
Ray is amazing. Yeah.
Ray is just a fabulous person and has probably the most amazing personal story I've ever heard. And if you're already curious, that's good. Go check up his website, his bio on the website, and come again in 2 weeks to listen to our conversation with Ray. So thank you again, Jill.
Thank
I
you.
know we're gonna meet again
Yes. Great.
in our small town of Kelowna. And have a great rest of the day for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.